nothing evil cross this door, and may ill fortune never pry about these windows without door, and rain go by. By faith made strong, the rafters will withstand the battering of the storm. This heart, though all the world grow chill, will keep you warm. Peace shall walk softly through these rooms, touching our lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into our shrine. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in.
Good morning. Our opening words this morning are by educator Parker Palmer. Jewish teaching includes frequent reminders about the importance of a broken open heart. As in this Hasidic tale, a disciple asked the Rebbe, "Why does Torah tell us to place these words upon your body, upon your hearts? Why does it not tell us to place these words in our hearts?" The Rebbe answers, "It is because as we are, our hearts are closed, and we cannot place the holy words in our hearts. So we place them on top of our hearts until one day the heart breaks open and the words fall in." I light this chalice to remind us of the light of this community, of the love that holds us all, and of our deep interconnectedness.
Please join us in the recitation of our covenant.
Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is its prayer.
This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace,
To seek the truth in love,
and to help one another.
I remember years ago being on retreat at a sanctuary in Central California. Life had thrown me some curveballs, and I was lucky and grateful to have a few days to sit in relative silence, solitude, and beauty, thinking and feeling my way through some pretty major life decisions. I crossed paths my second day there, quite literally with an older, long-retired nun. One of the nuns who had spent most of her life working with those most actually disenfranchised by the church, gay men, the homeless, queer youth, the poor, and the list goes on. And I loved being in this woman's presence. She emanated love literally from every pore of her body. So I shouldn't have been surprised when she turned around, took both of my hands in hers, and looked me in the eyes. And she told me gently, whatever it is, it will be okay. She said these words, act from a place of love. Everything, all of life, is about love. And the truth of that landed in me in a way that very little had until then. And it guided me through some really rough times that followed. It wasn't until some years later that I realized that she didn't only gift me with the truth of love, but she also taught me a bit about what faith looks like in action. It looks like love freely given to those who most need it. And as I write this, days before the election actually happens, I don't know what the outcome will be. Perhaps as you're listening to this, we still don't know. But I know that for many, the fear and anxiety of this moment feels almost unsurvivable. And you don't need me to tell you how much is on the line. You know it. What you need to know, and what I need to know too, is that there is a love, that there is a way to move through this. No matter what the outcomes of these days, these weeks, these months, and maybe years. And here's the good news. There is a way, but it's not an easy one. We've lost our way as a people that no single election can fix. From climate change to economic inequality, there are those whose lives will hardly be changed by the results of this election, and there are others whose last hopes for staying in this country or in their apartment or receiving social security or disability or even being safe in their skin, everything is on the line for them in this election. And somewhere in there, in the past months and years, it's become a them and us, Republicans and Democrats, believers and deniers, citizens and immigrants, white and everything else. And it's all bifurcated nonsense. But it's torn us apart. It's tearing us apart. So I ask us to pledge, no matter what the outcome, to change this. Don't get me wrong. If this election is stolen, I'll be out on the streets with everyone else fighting for our democracy, fighting for the truth to be heard. And there's another need right underneath that one, just as urgent. And that's the call to find each other again. To, in the words of our principles, remember the worth and dignity of one another, to recognize our interdependence, and to listen to our conscience as we defend our democracy. And I've had a lot of opportunity to talk about this lately, partially in the run-up to the election, but also in our own 7 Principles class. There's a dozen or so of us that have been exploring these principles, going deeper with their history and their purpose, as well as figuring out how they apply in the present moment. And we keep, I think, returning back to a single need, to find our ways back into connection with those unlike ourselves. And in this polarized moment, maybe even with militia on the street in some parts of this country, I understand that this call might sound counterintuitive. We're told that we need to fight to defend our ways of life, whether that's progressivism or Trumpism. But if that's the only thing we fight for, this will never end. The balance of power will swing from one side to the other, back and forth, both sides scrambling to outwit, outmaneuver, and outpower the other. And that's not a way to live. And look, I pray with all of my heart that a Biden-Harris ticket won or wins. I can easily imagine what would happen otherwise. And even if there is a Democratic sweep, even if they do take office, the court is stacked and ready to take away so many essential rights. And I know that we're going to be working for a really long time to right these wrongs. And it's going to require, in the words of Sikh activist and author Valerie Kaur, a sort of revolutionary love. One of my heroes, Reverend Tracy Blackman, a leader in the United Church for Christ, and someone I was lucky enough to get arrested with a few years ago. She says this: revolutionary love is when you are brave enough to see no stranger. This uprising is possible because of movement leaders who have been in labor for decades, now joined by newly inaugurated activists, and also the many generations of freedom fighters, of ancestors that came before us. She tells us that we can fight and that we can do it from a place of love and connection. And that's the invitation in this deeply tumultuous and unsettling time, to choose love. Maybe your love has you on the streets with those whose lives are most threatened. Maybe your love has you reaching out to a neighbor, a friend, a stranger who needs you. Maybe your love is continuing to do the work you've always done, medical care work, or teacher, or parent. There's so many things. Maybe your love is as an elder and a youth in conversation with each other, sharing and learning from each other's wisdom. You pick the form of love, but pick love. I know, and I'll say it often, that our shared faith tradition, it's not an easy one. It asks us to keep reaching out in ways that are not comfortable and to risk so much for a better world. But I believe it is a saving faith, not in the fire and brimstone sort of way, but instead in understanding that it is the disconnection that is the hell we find ourselves in. And it is there, too, that we get to find answers. So may our hearts be open enough. May we learn to ignore the bifurcation that politics would have us believe. And may our revolution of love be enough to save us all. Blessed be.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our blessed with love and amazing grace, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Our opening words today are by the Reverend Gretchen Haley, entitled The Healing in Freedom. Freedom has a rhythm to it, a longing that our bodies know without words, a movement away from everything small and scared, a waking up to possibility, healing backwards and forwards. Even now, we're beginning again, unafraid of this much mercy, tenderness, pleasure. We come to lean in, to learn the sound of liberation, like the sound of our names, receiving and releasing. We come to be free for more than ourselves, to call love the greatest liberty, to sing of loyalty, courage, and kindness, to remember we are all doing the best we can. Despair hasn't gotten us yet, nor overwhelm, which is kind of a miracle, surrounded as we are by this much beauty. Please join us now for our closing song.
Carry the flame of peace and